Welcome to the orientation and introduction video to our Women's Embodiment 7-Day Challenge. Now, before we begin our Divine Feminine Embodiment Challenge, I think it's important to explain what I mean by Divine Feminine Embodiment. So today's recording will be a little bit on the longer side, just to introduce the challenge, orient ourselves, and to make sure everyone is on the same page, and explain some of the terms that I will be using over the next 7 days. So when I talk about your divine feminine embodiment, I'm talking about how we live within our feminine energy. Now, we all have feminine and masculine energy. I don't necessarily mean in the way we dress, like in the terms of someone who is very feminine, who wears dresses all the time or heels all the time, and a woman who is more masculine might wear pantsuits or like to watch football. Instead, I'm talking more about the energy in which you live your daily life and how you get things done within your daily life and how you are being in relation to others within your daily life. Now, to describe feminine and masculine energy, the metaphor I will use is to think of a river or water that flows on the earth. Now, when you think of a river, whether it's like one in your backyard or one you know of like the Nile River, the flow is always going to flow, right? And the river flows within these certain bounds. The water doesn't go all over the land. It really stays its course as it goes from one end to the other. It usually starts somewhere like a mountain and makes its way always to the ocean. Thinking about the movement of the water itself, feminine energy is more like the water. It's very flowy. It's going to move. It's going to meander. It's going to swirl around, such as there are whirlpools that form at the bottom of really deep rivers. It's going to fall over cliffs. The water itself is reminiscent of what feminine energy is. It flows, it moves, it swirls, it twists, it creates. That's how I would describe feminine energy. Now, the masculine are the boundaries that keep the river flowing the way it is. So you have the river bank itself. These are the boundaries. It's what keeps order of things. So while the feminine is free to flow within those boundaries, the boundaries are what keep the water from flowing all over the land, from oversaturating the plants that live on the riverbanks, from drowning little animals that might be living beside the riverbank. The bank itself, the masculine, keeps the feminine within its bounds, so to speak. Now, if you were to think about what happens when you have stagnant water, think about water, for example, that might gather in a puddle or in a bucket, somewhere where the water is not moving. What happens to that water? That water becomes stagnant. Algae might grow in it. You might have bugs that reproduce in it, like mosquitoes. And in addition to it just remains there, there's no life to that water. And so bringing it back to our lives, what happens is when we live within our masculine and feminine energy that are not in balance, our lives become interrupted. Whether our lives become stagnant like that still water or become chaotic like a hurricane. So our careers may not move the way we want them to. Our relationships may not move the way or look the way we want them to. Our lives in general may not look the way we want them to. And that's usually a symptom that there's some sort of imbalance between our masculine and feminine energy. Now, again, I want to reiterate that this has nothing to do with how you dress, how you choose to speak, or how you choose to carry yourself. It's more along the lines of energy in which you live your life. Another thing about this water is that it moves in accordance with what's happening in its environment. So in the wintertime, water freezes within its banks. In the summertime, it flows again because it has the room to do so. If it's too hot, the water might evaporate. If there's too much rain, the water will flood. So I really think this speaks to the multidimensionality that we as women possess. You may have already noticed in your life that your feelings, your moods fluctuate. If you pay real close attention, you might notice that your moods fluctuate in the same ways every month around the same time. This is all natural. This is all good. This is all needed. And so as we do this challenge, I'm going to invite you to really pay attention to how you are living and moving from day to day, especially with regard to your energy levels, your moods, your feelings. It's all relevant to the work that we are going to be doing. Not to mention that water is the source to all life on this planet and probably the universe. Evolutionarily speaking, the Earth started out as covered in water. Life started in water before it came up on land. As women, our wombs are made of water or blood, and when we have children, life starts in the water of our wombs. So we are going to take this water metaphor throughout the next 7 days because it's a really juicy one and a really good one. And I think it's a great way for us to kind of keep ourselves grounded in what we want to do, be, and feel as we are embodying our feminine more and more. And this is going to be the key for the movement that you are seeking in your life in whatever capacity it may be. It's really embodying the feminine, this flow, this dynamic force that we all have innately in us, simply due to the fact that we were born within a woman's body, whether or not we choose or can have children from our bodies. When there are too many limits on our water, whether that comes from expectations from society, expectations from our parents, expectations from our religion, those we put on ourselves, our water, our spiritual essence, our authentic selves cannot flow as easily. And so with this challenge, we are going to explore all the ways that our flow has been stifled from the expectations that are on us to see in what ways we can open up our flow once again.